not listen to you. We have had enough of your con and bullshit.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm not going to talk about something that's very easy to talk about. I'm going to talk about a writer which text goes into the deepest unconscious part of human minds, but not just the deepest unconscious of an occultist, sex freak, and a heroin addict. I'm talking about William S. Burroughs. Born February 5th, 1914, died August 2nd, 1997. I won't really go into detail about his life. There are a lot there that you can read yourself. There's quite a lot there on the wiki. But I'm going to talk about two things in particular. One being the event that started all of this. Second being the book Naked Lunch. To give you a bit of a quick insight, Burroughs comes from a pretty rich family. He's a grandson of the founder of the Burroughs Corporation, so he's not poor. During World War II, he got addicted to heroin, and from there everything spiraled out of control. I'm gonna start by telling you the tragic story of his wife. This will give you an insight of what type of man this fool, in many ways, was. His wife was John Vollmer. She was an attractive, cynical, and daring young girl in her early 20s. Both of these people were highly intelligent, and this intelligence is what drew them to each other, because no one else could match their intelligence. But she was also a druggie, and both of them started to do morphine together. Sometime into the marriage, Vollmer suffered a breakdown. She was on the street having to be picked up by the police with her daughter next to her, and she was hospitalized because of this. Now, they weren't really married. They liked each other, but the marriage was never really formalized, so you couldn't call her wife. But technically, they were like husband and wife, but not in a legal sense. She had this breakdown because Burroughs went down to Mexico, started growing weed and selling it, and sort of ignored her. So when he noticed that she was in the hospital and having issues, she said, "Oh, come down to Mexico with me. You can help me with my weed." It's like, what? Because of the issues that they had with the drugs and the rest, she started to get hallucinations, and this happened through and through. To understand how a life with Burroughs could be, while Vollmer carried her child, Burroughs shot dope in his organ accumulator and read William Reich and Mayan anthropology. This very unhappy life of hers made her suicidal, and one evening when Burroughs and Vollmer was drinking, Burroughs had an idea. "Let's play a game," he said. And she agreed. This game was about putting a shot glass on top of Vollmer's head, and then Burroughs would shoot it with his gun. And, because Burroughs is such a sharpshooter, shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. Well, you can easily imagine what happened. He shot the bullet and went through her head, and she died instantly. She was only 28 when this happened. She, very intelligent, but because of the drug use and hallucinations and just a life with Burroughs, that's her life that ended. This changed Burroughs' life forever. And you could think, oh, maybe he spent time in jail. Yeah, sure, but it's not what changed his life. He started to write now. And he started to write while doing drugs. So the book I will talk about is Naked Lunch. And Christ almighty, why have you forsaken this world? Burroughs wrote this book while taking drugs and just allowing his unconscious and sort of just present itself onto the paper, writing whatever he felt like while on drugs, sort of analyzing the world around him. And you think maybe it's just wappy and crazy. Well, I mean, there are grammatic errors, as you can imagine, because high on heroin, but it's a sexual fantasy, more or less, this entire thing. And it goes back to Marquis de Sade, but the difference between Marquis de Sade, he wasn't high while doing it. I have mixed opinion about this book. One, this book is disgusting. But there are snippets that are really damn interesting. Because it's an analyzing of the American way and the American mindset, which sometimes he can put a very interesting perspective into it. But then I'm reading just the most disgusting pedophilic concept you can possibly think about. And again, it goes back to my argument against Bataille and de Sade. It's grotesque. And some people will say, oh, well, it's art. You have to see above the grotesqueness. But no, I think you're wrong. And I think Burroughs, while he can say, yeah, of course, I put my mind and soul into this, and you can sort of analyze my inner consciousness. I don't think he would say, oh, yeah, well, this part where it's about an N-word kid doing a Chinese boy in a hammock, where it's more or less rape, has any value. I don't think it has any value. There's no value in any of that. There's a lot of that. There's entire chapters with just gratuitous sex scenes, on and on and on and on, with young children. There's also an exploration of American homosexuality, and again, they are interesting parts. So, to not go insane, I did voices when I read this, so listen to what.
Remember the Bismarck archipelago? No other homosexuality. A functioning police state needs no police. Homosexuality does not occur to anyone as conceivable behavior. Homosexuality is a political crime in the matriarchy. No society tolerates overt rejection of the basic tenets. We aren't the matriarchy here, inshallah. You don't experiment with rats where they are subject to this electronic shock and dropped in cold water if they so much as move at a female. So they all became fruit rats, and that's the way it is with the theology. And shall such rats squeak out, I'm quiche, and I love it, or who cut yours off, you two-holed freak? There, a square rat, so to squeak. Germa rather breathe, experiment as a psychoanalyst, spot of bother with the society. One patient ran amok in the Grand Central with a flamethrower. 2 committed suicide. One died on the couch like a jungle rat. So his relations beef, and I tell them, it's all in the day's work. Get this stiff body. It's a bring down for my live patients. I notice all my homosexual patients manifest strong unconscious heterosexual trends, and all my hetero-patient unconscious homosexual trends. Makes the brain real, doesn't it?
So yeah, the way to see this, that's the interesting part. It's grotesque, yes it is. But it's within this, he's analyzing himself, like his inner conscious, having dialogues where it's happening. So, okay, to give him fair shot here, and I will. Yeah, I use weird left-wing people probably attacking me already, going like, you can't attack Burroughs. No, I can't. But he has so many good points within this small mind of his. Well, again, I don't like him because I don't like people who like William Reich. I don't like these sexual-driven people. I don't ever see it as my own inner conscious. I don't have these taboos necessary. But yeah, of course, everybody has certain taboos and everybody thinks certain ways, but I usually find what they want as a bit too much extreme. Like, if I saw this in real life, I wouldn't go, ooh, this is what I want. But regardless, for some people, this is what they want, and that's the interesting part. To give you an example, Edward Limonov, you might know him as the creator of the National Bolshevik Party of Russia. He spent 6 years in New York City, and at the time he was very poor. And the way he lived in America, he had a very miserable hostel room where he spent most times having sexual relationship with homeless people, and in particular black people, and he liked it. He liked being the submissive to black homosexuals, and he even wrote a book about it, which sold, I think, 1 million copies. Excuse me? Excuse me, what? Someone who is so extreme, being National Bolshevik of sorts, like being dominated by blacks? Excuse me? And in a way, you can go even further and sort of look at the way Americans and people works with their taboos. It's like, why is black.com so popular, and especially by Republicans, for example, if you take America? Why is very conservative people also very sexually frustrated? And in some senses, Naked Lunch looks into this, sort of can analyze it. It usually analyzes the homosexual parts of it, but it still analyzes sort of the inner unconscious feelings, which is okay. Okay, that's okay. But I don't think that's a good way of doing it, and I don't think he is correct, because I don't think analyzing it like William Reich does sexuality is correct, because William Reich's sexual theories are dog shit. For example, E. Michael Jones is a complete idiot. I don't understand why people like E. Michael Jones, but you can look at his book Libido Dominanti, and there it's sort of analyzing this behavior of this unconscious that these people have, and sort of trying to push this normality in society. It's like, yes, in some certain senses, I get it. This shouldn't be deemed as normal, and William Reich's and other people's sexual theories shouldn't be looked as normal. But I don't think they are or will ever be, because this is such an extreme way that it's not reality. It's not taboo. It's not unconscious. It's just far beyond the normal man. And I'm guessing if you are that smart and you have these ideas, maybe that's something for you. But in the same time, not everybody has these ideas. Some people do, and this is why it works for some people, the book. But not everybody has these ideas in their mind. They're not living a hypocritical life constantly. They don't have these issues. I mean, for use myself as an example, I have my own sexual thoughts, as everybody does, but I don't act upon them, and I don't really think about them too much, because they're not that relevant. Yes, and everybody has sexual thought because you're supposed to reproduce. But God, no. Any of that is it's just weird. But people like it. And I've been watching a lot of snuff this last week, which I'm not a big fan of. But I did watch it because it was sort of like, I wanted to analyze Naked Lunch by just looking at snuff as well. Cannibal Holocaust and The Last House on the Left. The 70s version. And it's just, Cannibal Holocaust I have respect for, at least, because it actually is quite clever in how it analyzes itself. But the Last House on the Left, there's no analyzing there. It's just grotesque rape scenes, because I don't know why. I guess people like it. But that's the thing with human consciousness. Why do some people like this? And in many ways, that's what Naked Lunch looks into. But you have to look past the grotesque. And I always have issues doing that, because that's what I see first and foremost. But yes, obviously I can analyze this, but I would like rather a summary of the things he brings up that are interesting, so I don't have to read all of that.